Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Navigator Day, Building Digital Navigator training. We are very excited to put all this together, collect a lot of these resources, things that's been transpiring to the last couple of years, and bringing all that into building Digital Navigator. With the new RFP, there's a lot of new digital navigators, or not necessarily new in the experience, but maybe having the official role now. However, I know that there's some agencies or participants that are not be a digital navigator, and that's totally fine because throughout the years we have been working with bridging the digital divide, and the digital navigator role is really a compilation of all those components into one person that are addressing these. With that, we our first presenter, very excited to introduce is Jerry Yamashita. He's a senior technical advisor at World Education. He has a background as an adult education teacher and administrator with experience designing and implementing CTE pathways and EdTech initiatives, facilitating professional development and promoting student staff upskilling. Jerry is a doctoral candidate in education technology at Boise State University, and he was one of my first people that I attended a session to when I started in digital ATN, and I've been following since. So, big fan. I'll pass it on to you, Jerry. Thank you for presenting for us.
Thanks, Jose, and thanks for that great introduction. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here at this very early hour for me. I'm in Sacramento, California, and but nonetheless, when Jose asked me to if I would participate, I said, "Of course, this is fantastic." This is really my sort of topic. This has been a work labor of love for me for a while, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Um, and so I just wanted to welcome you all, and I hope that this is yeah, I'll take it. I hope that this is going to be valuable information for you. We're going to get into a lot. So there is a lot, and with that said, this is the first time I built this for you all specifically. I've never done this presentation before. So there's going to be a lot of information, but you're also going to get all of these resources. And so right now, even just on this first screen, if you have your a mobile device, you can scan that QR code and get this presentation on that device. And also, I believe we can get the Padlet itself. That's what we're running on. This is in presentation mode, just for you all to, if you haven't tried that yet, it's very cool. You'll have the Padlet as well. So go ahead and scan that, and you'll have the codes, the links, and Jose will be able to drop those in there. There you go. There it is there. So let's just jump right in because we have a lot to cover. So this is titled Navigating the Future. What is a digital navigator? We're going to kind of start sort of at the beginning and define some terms and get into some foundational resources. We already went over that. That's in case you want to review that. So here is the link to the Padlet. You got that in the chat there too, so we should be able to good to go there. Okay. So let's just do a quick pulse check. You can scan this on your phone. And that might be a cool way to do it, so you can watch your screen and then you can do some of the activities on your phone at the same time. Otherwise, the link will be put in the chat too, and you can do it that way. So there's multiple ways you can engage. Just putting this general question out there, what is a digital navigator? What's your definition? What do you think it is, or what do you know it to be? And this is, we're going to be using a tool called Sandbox in Padlet. This is a newer feature. Again, something cool to try if you haven't tried this one yet. So I'll just go ahead and open that up myself. And so when you're on here, if you can see that, is that following the screen, Jose? Are you able to see the sandbox?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so you can see everyone's on there. So, um, does this look kind of familiar to anyone? Has anyone been used? Was anyone using a tool like this before that went away recently?
It was something with jam, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah, Jamboard. Jamboard. So we're gonna be there's a lot of talk about Jamboard alternatives lately, just because it went away, but that's a another topic for another day. But this is a cool tool to try out, and you could use this with your, of course, with your learners or with anyone using seeking digital navigation services. This might be a way for you to build out some type of activities or uh, you can collaborate on here, all kinds of stuff. So really cool. And see some great responses coming in already. All right. Um, yeah. So digital literacy skills, digital services. Um, I love this one in particular. This digital navigator says other educators use digital tools. Um, that is one of the aspects I think is often overlooked, and that's why I really love what's going on here in Connecticut. And the model here is, really support for everyone, anyone, including educators, because we don't see that a lot. So really appreciate this model, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So, um, great. And so this will be open. You guys can continue to use this. And we will touch on another one in a little bit, but I don't want to take up too much time on this one. Let's get back to the slides and um, go over today's goals. So um, really just three goals today. We want to become familiar with why digital navigators are important, outline what a digital navigator is and what their responsibilities are. And then we're going to go over a lot of resources to learn how to support your agency, your teachers, like we just talked about, and adult learners. Um, and again, all of these will be collected in that Padlet, and you'll have access to them at any time. So um, that question that always comes up, will we get a copy of the slides? You already have them. So let me check in. Um, in the Padlet itself, and I think we'll be able to open this up too on screen. What is one digital literacy resource that you might recommend to a digital navigator or another colleague, and why? So we're going to post that comment in the Padlet post itself, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you're in the Padlet here, this is the whole thing, and we're on share out here, and you can just add a comment by clicking in the box there. I can also you can also share posts directly. So I'm going to post that in the chat too, and you should be able to see that. And you can open up that post directly and see what that looks like. Yeah, so when you're in presentation mode, I probably some of these are blocking your view a little bit. Move that around. You'll be able to see, there it is, the post itself. Um, and also, I don't mind if anyone wants to, just quickly share on Mike as well. Is there anything jumping out at you that you think is an essential resource for a digital navigator? Happy to take your suggestions. Oh, I see one coming in. Applied, yeah, Google's applied digital skills are fantastic. And those are, yeah, and if you can drop the link to it, if you have that handy, that's even better because now this can be a collection for everyone too. Um, and if you're having trouble with that, go ahead and drop it in the Google or the Zoom chat as well. That's fine. Um, applied digital skills are great for learners, whether you are an educator or a student, because you can learn those skills or any other, tons of types of skills on there for yourself and also facilitate those for other learners. Okay. Um, I just want to be aware of the time. So we're going to jump into a little bit of the background of what happened, why digital navigators kind of came to uh, came to be. And I hope this isn't blocking everything. Um, so everyone remembers, March 2020. I know I do very well, and I know we've kind of beat this topic to death sometimes, but this was a turning point. This is a really big turning point in um, the digital equity and digital inclusion movement, really. And um, what was going on, and for me, this was a time and a point in time when I had just transitioned from sort of doing TOSA work into becoming an instructional technologist at my agency. And this was an adult ed agency serving at the time nearly 10,000 learners across California. And so, um, the weekend before this happened, I had just transitioned, and then what was it? Friday the 13th, right? When everything shut down, um, my inbox exploded, and we were trying to navigate this, no pun intended, along with everyone else in the country and the world, for that matter. And what happened is that we jumped right into emergency remote teaching, right? Whether or not you knew how to facilitate online learning, you were doing it. And what happened with that was we really saw a huge challenge for not only students, but teachers as well. But what we were seeing, first of all, the first early data that was starting to come in, one of the polls jumped out at me, and this was a poll that I think it was maybe April, May. I have the resource for you. I can share this. 87% of teachers were reporting that they were spending more time troubleshooting tech before than they did before the schools closed. Now, if I asked you to raise your hands if that's surprising to you, I wouldn't get any hands raised, right? Because that's not surprising. It just puts a number to it, right? It puts a number to it and it kind of solidifies for us. We have data to prove that this is a challenge. So what do we do about that? In April, just a month later, NDIA, this is National Digital Inclusion Alliance, they sent out an email to create a new working group to try to address this head on, to talk about what was going on with transitioning to remote learning and how digital inclusion work is really reacting to this, this new thing. And what we started talking about like early on, one of the names that they were tossing around was digital caseworker, which everyone kind of hated. And we settled on digital navigator. And this was building off of actually earlier work by the Digital Us project, if anyone's familiar with that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But there was already work being built on digital navigators, around digital navigators as early as 2019 or may possibly even late 2018. So that framework was starting to already come together before this meeting. However, this is the one that really kind of jumped off, at least for me, because we were able to come out with a job description framework and really kind of the bones of it for me, which I took and ran with in my agency. Okay, so um, what happened was, and this is my own experience from that April to basically October was when I started building out our own model. So I took the NDIA framework that we had built in the working group and adapted that framework to my local setting. And my local setting is probably very similar to many of your local settings where um, my learners were about 70% English language learners. And nearly 95, 98% um, free or reduced lunch. And in that category, we're talking about being under families being under the federal poverty line. So we had a lot of challenges with tech access and devices, internet, and also digital literacy skills. So uh, I built that out over that time period. And by September, it was all approved and I was able to start hiring. And I hired 6 digital navigators with a focus on language support because of those 70% English language learners. And so we targeted the languages that our students spoke majority wise. So we had within those 6 digital navigators, now it's been a while, but I would be Russian, Ukrainian, Farsi, Dari, Spanish, and we had a handful of other languages that were also spoken by. But those were the main languages. In addition to helping those students, they were also helping teachers. Um, and we developed EdTech PD basically, which we called Level Up. And every week we were working on some different topic. And this was all internal, and I was doing um, things like blended learning, flipped learning with, virtual only, and they were working on tools that they started learning about and liking, including Edpuzzle and Screencastify. You'll see these here. So that's all covered. This whole story, that's kind of in a nutshell. Um, was written about in the COABE journal. So there's a link there, and if you want to read more about it, and I'd be happy to chat with anyone later offline if you have any questions or if I can help support you in any way. Okay, so let's talk about the digital divide. That's the problem, right? We all know that this is the issue, but what's the definition of that? So we're going to try the sandbox again. This will be a different one. And if you could just put in there, what's your definition? What is the digital divide? Because, over the years, I had an understanding of what that was, but I think it's changed. And many folks would argue that it's different now than it used to be. So I'd love to hear what you think it is. Um, and oh, thank you, Jose. We'll open this one up. Oh, it's this one. There we go. Great. I can see some folks in there already. And again, if you're having trouble accessing this, feel free to put your response in the Google, or why do I keep saying Google? The Zoom chat. All right, cool. So we're seeing some, I'm already seeing a couple that say has the word gap. And I think we're all pretty much on the same page. The 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 kind of the traditional definition, I think we always talked about like three legs of a stool. I don't know, has anyone heard that one? That's kind of like the one I always hear is three legs of the stool, and it's all about access to uh, devices, um, the internet itself, and digital literacy training. And I think it's sort of evolved to kind of clarify some of those things. Now you hear affordable um, devices, affordable access to the internet. Um, cool. Well, thank you for jumping into the sandbox. Okay, so let's keep going here. Oh, okay, so the NDIA definition, um, that first part of it in bold, um, uh, their definition, and this has been updated, I think, recently, digital divide is the gap between those who have affordable access, skills, and support to effectively engage online and those who do not. And it goes on to kind of clarify that even further. And so, like I said, this definition I think has evolved over time, and it probably will continue. But that resource is there for definitions. They have a nice page um, at NDIA on all types of digital inclusion terms. Okay. Oh my gosh, keep doing that. And these open these links. So let's talk about what the digital divide looks like in Connecticut. Um, this was very interesting that I jumped into this data. Uh, Under a quarter of households are lacking in high-speed internet service at home, and 20% do not have a computer at home. And this kind of aligns with the digital the NDIA definition that it's this divide falls disproportionately on lower income residents, older adults, students, and communities of color. Has anyone read this report? This is from 2020, but I mean, it's going to be, I think still pretty current. Um, and do those numbers surprise you or line up with what you already know? Maybe in your community with your learners. Um, that is a big gap. I mean, we're talking nearly 25% don't have access at home. So what do we do about that? Talk about access and to the internet and to devices. And so I'm not going to dive into these. These are resources that are on in the Padlet that you can check out on your own, but I'll just kind of go through and mention what these are. I've compiled these for you. Some of these you may already know, but this is 211 Connecticut. This is an affordable internet sort of search portal. And so you can try to find internet service providers in your community that are free or discounted. Devices wise, we you have Human IT that is out there. There's many others as well, but Human IT is kind of a big one, and they have an online store where you are able to check out really affordable devices. They're a refurbisher, and so one of the things when ACP was around and there was that credit where you were able to access some funds, those funds could be spent directly um, at stores like Human IT, which was pretty cool. So that's another resource for devices. And digital literacy training. So that's the third leg of the stool. Um, let's do a quick activity, just kind of check back in with each other. Let's do a speed test. Has anyone ever done this before? You can do this on your computer, or you can do this on your mobile device. And this might be a way to also engage with your learners, or actually even check in on kind of like what their level of access is, and we'll kind of discuss that a little bit more. But I think the link, did I put that link in there, Jose? You can do this really easily, actually. If you go to if you have a Google on your device or on your computer, you can just type in the Google search, just type in speed test, and it'll actually show up right on your browser, which is kind of cool. So run that speed test, and it might be interesting to run it on your phone and run it on your computer and see if they're the same or similar. If you're on the same network, or if you're using your own data and you're using a Wi-Fi on your computer, it might be different. But yeah, go ahead and run that. I'm gonna try this and see what mine is. All right, so you should be seeing a down and up speed. So if you want to try posting both of those. And these first ones are already seeing coming in 360 and 328. These are actually very fast. Um, but 328 down and 20 up, that's a huge difference also. 106 and 10. Yeah, you guys are all beating me actually. Mine is 93 and 13 right now. Wow. Jose, is that the same network? Are you on the same network with both devices?
No, the first one was the internet at home, and then the second one is the cellular,
Oh, wow,
5G, I
that's
think.
super fast.
Well, actually, no, they're all connected through Wi-Fi. Funny. So
Ah,
it's changing by device because it's connected
yeah.
by Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh, maybe because on your computer, you're on the Zoom right now on your computer. Maybe that's back in it. Yeah, so we're getting really, wow, 608 up. Holy smokes. Okay. All right. So, this is a tool that you can use, and you can use this on any device, like I said, and you can test it with your learners as well to see where they're at. And you can test it at different locations. Why is this important? Okay, let's put this into context. Okay, so the FCC has set the minimum standard for broadband internet as 25 for download and 3 for upload. Okay, I'll say that again. 25, that's megabits per second, Mbps for download, and 3 for up. Okay, what does that mean? Just to generally browse the web, 1 megabyte per second. File downloads 10. To be a general student, 25. Remote employee, 25. This is kind of the bandwidth that takes up, right? What do you need for video streaming? If you want to stream HD or 4K, you're looking at between 5 to 8 megabits per second. Now that these are all for one, so think about what this bandwidth means. And what the FCC says is broadband. So anything over 25. Now, there's a lot of folks lobbying to get this changed. This seems very low, right? And so what this does is really says internet service providers can say, well, we have broadband internet. This is fast. And it could be as low as 25 megabits per second. None of us on this call right now had, I don't think, if I review this back, anything close to that. We're all well above that. Um, and actually, I think, there's only 2 or 3 of us that were even remotely close to that at around 100. And so just kind of taking that into consideration. Now this is for one person, actually not even one person, one device, right? So let's think about that. We talk about basic, medium, and advanced service within the FCC definition. And basic is 3 to 8, 1 or 2 users or devices. Medium 12 to 15, advanced is 25 or above. So think about your own home. How many people are in that home? And how many devices do you use? Okay. Now, don't forget, you've got maybe a smart speaker. Maybe you have a smart TV. Maybe you have a what are those? Like a smart thermostat, right? Like a Nest or something, right? Maybe you have a doorbell now. These are all devices that connect. These count towards this bandwidth, right? And so and then multiply. So like for instance, for me, I've got what, a phone, I've got a couple of computers, I've got a couple of smart speakers, I've got the TV. So like let's say I have 5. That's just me. What about other people in my household? What if I had a couple of students and they have a phone and they have a Chromebook and they're trying to access? This is what we're running into. So if I'm using 25 megabits per second and I've got 3 other people that are using that at the same time, if I hit 100, I'm done. I'm done. Someone's taking a hit on that service, right? Unless I have much more than that. So this is the context that we have to kind of apply when we're thinking about that 25 megabits per second and what are we saying that families out there are able to access, right? Does that make sense? Um, and the FCC says that's fast, that's broadband. So just wanted to kind of put that into context for everyone. Now, again, these services refer to users or devices, and I would say more specifically devices because each user is going to have multiple devices. So again, smartphone, tablet, computer, streaming or gaming. Yeah, see, there's already 4 devices for that person. So I'm not going to stay on this too long. Let's move on to the next one. You can always review all of these again. Okay, so back to this question. We asked this at the very beginning. What is a digital navigator? And you all had the sandbox to put your definitions in there. If you missed that, that's still available. That'll be open. I'd love to see your responses in there. But what are other folks saying? So back to NDIA, their definition, they've recently updated this to say that digital navigators are trusted guides who assist community members with ongoing individualized support for accessing affordable and appropriate connectivity devices and digital skills. Why? I didn't have this built in there, but this jumps out at me as we talk about it. Why do they use the word appropriate in there? What does that mean? What do you guys think that means? I'll just give that a second, just to reflect on that, or put it in the chat. Um, what does appropriate mean? Adequate? Okay, could be. And kind of even more to the point, like how how do we assess that? Like how do we know what appropriate is, right? Right tools for the task. Yeah. So if we were to think about that 25 megabits per second is the threshold. And we know that, the learner that we're working with at the moment has, um, a family of six. Um, maybe a partner and some children at home, and they're all school age. What might their connectivity needs be at home, right? What's appropriate for that level of use, right? And I think that's kind of where this is going. Trying to identify the appropriate connectivity, because that 25 megabits per second might not work for them. That might be way, way, way too low. Whereas if it was just a single person, that might be good. That might be plenty for that person. So just thinking about that, and that's kind of one of the things that digital navigators do, is they assess these types of things. What is the situation? Who is the user? What's the context? Which is why I bring these types of things up, because it seems like kind of very technical, but really it's practical when we think about it, because this affects not only your usage and your access levels, right? Because if everyone's on Zoom, probably someone's going to get kicked off, or it's going to be a bad connection, a low connection. But also financially, right? Like, what does this cost? What's the difference between a 25 megabits per second connection and 100 or 300? What's the difference in price? It's probably significant. So to think about these things. So what's the Connecticut definition um, of a digital navigator? Now I put this out there just to kind of um, spark a little bit of thought around this. And I think Jose, you've got um, a definition that's very much based on or close to the NDIA definition. But that could look a little bit different, even agency to agency, I think, as you get into the work. You think about what specific things that you are doing. Because even, when I look back on my program, our definition probably was a lot different than what the, say Denver Public Library's definition was, or even the NDIA definition at the time. Okay, so quick poll. Are you a digital navigator? And this is actually within the Padlet, so hopefully you're able to access that. And I think, did I give you the direct link, Jose? I hope that's accessible for you, because there we go. Yeah, and I haven't tried this yet, so this will be cool. Let's see how this shows, if you are able to access it. Oh, it's good. Live. I can see it coming up. So let's show results. And this is really exciting. Anyone out there a Mentimeter user? Um, I love Menti, but sometimes it feels like a little bit too much, especially if you're only just doing like one or two little quick pulls. This is a very cool tool within the Padlet um, now that you can use if you haven't tried this feature. So we've got 2/3 are digital navigators, and the rest not yet or not sure. Okay, well, I would say that, you know, probably at some point you have served as a digital navigator, whether that's with your learners or a family member or a friend even. You know, if we are providing some type of, you know, tech support in a way, that's sort of like digital navigation services, right? And so we can all probably say at some point we have been a digital navigator. So thank you for jumping into that poll and testing that out with me. Okay, so let's talk about sort of the definition and the role of a digital navigator, as far as kind of, you know, maybe day to day or overall. Core responsibilities. I'm not going to read this out. This is, again, this is in the Padlet that you can check out. Um, but these are some of the core responsibilities that, um, you know, sort of have kind of touch on many of the things that you might be doing, or that you might find appropriate for your own setting. So definitely take a look at that. Um, but what I would say about this is that when we talk about core responsibilities of a digital navigator, we rarely look at it as a day-to-day sort of list. It's more, um, it's kind of like at a higher level than that, I think, because what we're trying to do is build relationships, and um, really an understanding with the community that we're serving. And so, you know, you do see some of those key words there where we're identifying and assessing needs, we're establishing rapport, we are providing information and training, we are guiding, we are uh, tracking progress, embodying characteristics like patience, compassion, and a genuine desire to help each other. So again, I would encourage you to take a look at this list, see what works for you, and see what connects for you. So that last piece, we talked about access to the internet. We talked about how to get devices. What about the digital literacy skills? One of the key resources that I want to put out there, and this is one of the funny things about Padlet when you go into presentation mode, it kind of does this weird thing with links and it grabs images and kind of squishes them sometimes. So this might look funny. This is not actually how the logo looks. It's not supposed to be squished. But nonetheless, this is a new resource through World Education, um, building off of the digital skills library. It's called the Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit. Maybe by a show of hands, you click your hand or thumbs up in the Zoom screen. How many folks are familiar with the digital skills library? All right, couple. Yeah, it looks like a couple are. Great. Okay, so this is going to be um, new for many of you, which is awesome. And the so Digital Skills Library in and of itself is a great resource, and Bridges just really builds upon that to kind of bring it into a framework. So definitely check that out. And I think, Jose, if I'm not wrong, there's going to be more on this at some point in your program. I'm not sure if it's today, but or maybe down the line there you're going to have some.
Yes, we are showing some an aspect of it today, and then throughout the year we have it on the website. We're going to be referencing it and all that throughout the year.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I will not dwell on this at all. but just to make you aware of it. Other useful frameworks you may be familiar with, ISTE standards, there's the student standards, there's educator standards, and they also have some other ones that you can look at. North Star standards and the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative, which was really kind of the launch point for the Bridges framework, actually. And so you'll often see some crosswalks. So you'll also see in the Bridges one that they crosswalk to a lot of these standards. So if you're using those already, and you want to look at Bridges, there's already some resources built in there to cross walk those so that they connect very easily for you. Okay, another key resource. Again, this is one of ours, skill blocks. And I think there will be more on this as well. But anyone familiar with skill blocks? I would just, if you're not, please check it out. It's pretty cool. Um, it's a great way for you to share resources and links and all kinds of, I mean, you really have to kind of jump in and play with it. But it's a great way to engage with your learners because you can actually set up sort of specialized, personalized learning for them and share that very easily via links or QR codes. So more on that here. So this is an example of a new feature within Skill Blocks. This might be very interesting for you if you are building out a program at your agency. I've been working with these things called connected learning centers across the country, which are AT&T sponsored sort of like computer labs that they've been building out inside of community-based organizations all across the country to help bridge the digital divide in impacted communities. And so I've been working with them and this new feature in Skill Blocks called Stacks to sort of build a customized sort of like white labeled landing page where they can share out routines, playlists of learning resources, and let me see if I can show you a copy of this. Is this going to be, there we go. So actually, and again, I hope this is not blocking everything, but this is a example of what a stacks looks like. And so this can be your agency actually. So you can customize this whole page and your logo and your description and everything can be here. And these are actually blocks that you would build in the Skill Blocks platform, and you can compile all of your blocks here. So I built some sample courses. So this will be a course on getting started on a computer, and you can see that there's 6 activities in that one. Intro to email, 7 activities, and so on. So you can collect all of your blocks within your stacks, and your stacks would be just this landing page. And if you have a computer lab or you've got loaner laptops or whatever, you could actually like have this as a shortcut on your desktop so that any learner that is accessing that device can always come to your home page, so to speak, and access any of the trainings that you put together. Or and this doesn't have to just be digital skills stuff. This can be your links to your Burlington English lessons, or it could be links to a collection of YouTube videos. You could put together a list of holiday recipes and share that out. Anything that has a link you can build into a blocks. So again, this is a much deeper dive for another time, but I just wanted to show you this new feature within Skill Blocks. If you've been using Skill Blocks, I highly recommend checking out the Stacks feature. Okay, back to our presentation. The Digital Skills Library, we talked about that. This is another key resource. Okay, and so what does the national landscape look like? Again, high level overview. We're not going to dive into these things But you can check out what coverage looks like broadband wise nationally through the FCC National Broadband Map. The link is there. Here's a resource on how to use the broadband map. Key takeaway from that, what we found was that uh, a lot of folks are still smartphone dependent, meaning that that's the only device that they have to connect to the internet. So we need to sort of consider that, and many of those folks are going to be our our folks, the people that we serve, right? These are our adult learners are often overlapping with this population. So just be aware that the access divide is still very much there, and a lot of folks only have access to a smartphone. So you need to make sure that your program and technology-enabled instruction should be mobile friendly as much as possible. That's the big takeaway there. There is more on this in the ideal handbook, and that link is in there too. If you haven't checked that out, I would highly recommend taking a look at that. Okay. So I'm not going to jump into that at all. Understanding your community, this is the Connecticut broadband map. You can take a look at that to see specifically what your access is in your area. They have their own speed definitions, okay? Technology integration. What do you think when you hear the term technology integration? You can put your comment in the post or in the chat, but just kind of a reflection point. What do you think about when you hear this term? Because that is a lot of the work that digital navigators may be doing as well. So for me and us at the EdTech Center at World Ed, we really, really emphasize this term goals before tools. Okay, so um, when we think about technology integration, we are talking about goals before tools. We don't want to just promote apps and things like that. We need to think about what is our outcome, what do we want, before we choose how we deliver that. Okay, so those frameworks that we talked about, the bridges and the ISTE and North Star, those are all great, and those are going to help us figure what these outcomes are going to be, and then how to choose a tool from there. Okay, so here's some more key resources for digital navigators. Digital Navigator Playbook, foundational. I would highly recommend anyone doing this work take a look at this. This is sort of the seminal text out there, if you will. This goes from definitions all the way down to how to build a program from the ground up. I cannot emphasize this enough. We use this and reference this all the time. And this is that 2019 work that I was referencing earlier. NDIA just published this fantastic resource called the Digital Inclusion Program Manual, and definitely worth a look at that as well, especially if you're sort of on the admin side, building out your program. This is going to be a key resource for you as well. I mentioned this earlier, the Ideal Distance in Digital Education Handbook. For those of you, whether you are admin or classroom or support, this is a great resource for you to sort of put into context distance and digital learning, along with all of these other things that we've talked about along the way today, access, tech integration, and all of that. It's kind of all brought together here in the newest 9th edition that just came out in August. I talked about that earlier. If you want to kind of put some of this digital navigation work into context, there's also some blogs that are have been published talking about how this work looks like in the field. So definitely take a look at that. Peer digital navigators, this is an example of how learners become basically mentors, which is a very cool example. And there's a couple of case studies in there. We just co-developed a training that's hosted on Coursera with Goodwill Industries. And there's a certification in Digital Navigator specialization. So if you have any, if you're interested in that, please email me. I'm happy to chat with you about that. We don't have any time to talk about that today. I just want to put that out there. The link is there in the Padlet. But we are very excited about this resource for the digital inclusion community. So wrapping up, I hope we hit our goals today. Becoming familiar with why digital navigators are important, what a digital navigator is and what they do, and a review of essential resources to help support your agency teachers and adult learners. So I do hope that we met that. Would love, you can put a heart react in the Padlet, thumbs up, whatever you want in the chat as your exit ticket today. As you depart today and move on to your next activity, would love you to reflect. So 3, 2, 1 reflection, 3 things that you learned, 2 things that you'll try, and 1 question that you still might have about digital navigators. If you have a question, again, my email is there. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to chat with you. I'm here to support you. I love this work, and I hope that you found this a valuable use of your time today. So with that, I welcome your feedback. You can put that in the chat. You could put that in the Padlet. And thank you. So we hit it right on the dot. Holy smokes. Back to you, Jose.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you for all the wonderful resources that you shared. That palette will be available. It will be shared out with you also in our follow-up email. So anything that you feel like you may have missed is there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We do a lot of tech support and implementation. So some of these resources we could talk to you about and see where we're going with it and all that. But thank you so much, Jerry, for presenting. Our next presentation is Closing the Gap, Digital Equity Services in Connecticut. Our presenter will be Mary Kate Everly, and it will be at 10:10. So if you need to stretch, get some coffee, use the restroom, you could do that, and then we'll be joining. Remember, each session, it's its own link. You have to you have to exit this one and join the next one. See you guys soon. Thank you so much.